Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? So this video is going to be a little bit different and I'm sorry if I'm not my normal self. I feel very anxious filming this. This is just a very hard topic for me to talk about, but I've thought long and hard about this video and I know I want to do it. So I'm going to give you a really quick recap of what led up to this video. So I did a collaboration with a small indie brand named Amy Heart's Beauty, and it launched on Black Friday of last year. I'd been in contact with the brand for quite a while before we started working on the collaboration, and I thought that they were a brand that I could trust. Over time, in my personal opinion, it felt like things just fell apart. So I decided to make a disconnect between myself and the brand. If you've been following me on Instagram, you might have seen this, but I did make a small statement just saying that I was no longer working with the brand I collaborated with. I didn't even call them out by name. I just said that they started selling singles without my permission of the palette without even letting me know, and that I was really sorry to any customers who had had a bad experience. I didn't go into any more detail than that, but 2 days later, I received a cease and desist for defamation, slander, and libel, a cease and desist for criminal harassment, and also a non-disclosure agreement with a date from June of 2019 that was drawn up in March. I had never seen it before then. I had never signed it. It had no value whatsoever. I was really upset when I received them in the mail, and I do want to apologize because I said that I was served a cease and desist, and I didn't realize that just receiving them in the mail does not mean that you were served. I don't have any legal experience, so I did not understand that until I got a little bit of legal advice, and I have now come to realize that the documents were not actual legal documents. They were probably just printed off of Google, and they were a scare tactic to silence me. If I'm being honest, they did work a bit. It really did upset me, and it's put me in a really bad place mentally. It has been hard, but the point of this video is not to gather any pity. It's been an extremely helpful learning lesson in what to do going forward in my life and in doing YouTube. So I really wanted to make this video to share those lessons with y'all, especially if you are a small influencer. Then I really hope that you'll stick around and watch this video. I've filmed a full video talking about every single thing that happened twice, and both of the times I just felt like it was wrong. It wasn't me. I'm not out here to do a full revenge video. I feel like it's not my style. Even though I do feel like I was wronged, it's not the end of the world. I can pick up the pieces and move on. So after getting a little bit of legal advice on the documents, because they are not actual legal documents, I don't have to respond to them. If they were a real cease and desist, you have normally 10 to 20 days, depending on what state you live in, to respond, and you have to seek legal representation. So at first, I was going to find a lawyer when quarantine was over, but after taking the time this last month and a half since the situation happened, I have decided that it's just not worth my mental health and also the financial strain of having to pay for a lawyer. I'm just not willing to dip into my savings for that, especially starting a lawsuit on my own. If it was something I had to fight and I was forced to do it, of course I would. But to start it myself just feels like it would be really hard on me. So I decided to do what would be best for me personally, but the way that I have justified this whole situation, using this experience to be able to protect myself in the future and also protect my audience. I do want to say though that personally, I do not support Amy Heart's Beauty. I will never buy from them or talk about their products again on my channel. Whenever I did the 2 original videos talking about everything that's happened, the part that felt like it stuck out to me the most, the part that was the most important, was the fact that I was self-reflecting on what I had done, what I did wrong, what I wish I had done better. And so that's what I really wanted to highlight in this video, and that's what I wanted to talk about, because hindsight's 2020. We can sit here all day long and say, oh, I wish I'd done this or I wish I'd known that. And no matter what, like, I don't have the ability to change the past, but I can change the future. I can also give advice to other people and also take responsibility in this situation and say, once again, if you had a bad experience, I am so sorry. I don't want to get into too much detail because that's something I'm apparently not allowed to talk about from the cease and desist, but I am so sorry. The first lesson that I wrote down is to always have a contract if you are doing paid work for a brand. And this is something that I hadn't really done. I've only done a handful of sponsorships and I had never done a collaboration before. So I really should have been more smart about it, but it's not that I didn't ever think, oh, we should have a contract. It's just that I didn't have my best interest in mind. It was like, oh, doing a contract, that would be so much work for a small brand to do, and I don't want to have to do that. And we understand each other. We've talked about this. We have open communication. I had all these reasonings of why, like, yeah, a contract would be nice, but it's not exactly necessary, and that would never happen to me. So I just feel like that was such naive, and I'm going to be blunt, pretty stupid thinking. I should have been protecting myself. And if you are going into anything with a brand, please protect yourself. If you feel like a brand is going to be offended by you asking them to drop a contract, or if you feel like it's too much work, just please don't work with them. Know your value and protect yourself, because your work has value. And having a solid contract is just, it's black and white. Whereas just having a regular non-legal agreement can definitely have loopholes. And I just really want any other small influencers to know that contracts are so important. And I will never ever do paid work for a brand again without a contract in place. I have to protect myself before I think of someone else, especially a brand. And that leads me to my second lesson, and that would be that brands are not your friend. And this is really hard for me. And I've heard people say it in the past where they're like, brands aren't your friends. They don't care about you. And whenever you have, especially I feel like for me, the connection that I've made with a lot of brand owners, just because like I do all these indie things and indie makeup spotlight, and getting to talk to indie brand owners where it's just one real person and they tell you about their life, you know, personal details about them. It's so easy to kind of let them drift over into like, oh yeah, they're kind of a friend. I'm not saying to never be friendly with brand owners, but I think it's important to always remember at the top of the list is that this is business. I don't really feel like I need to over explain this point, but just remember, especially if someone is in the position to use you, your name, your audience, your brand as a person to their advantage, they're not your friend. It is business. So the next lesson that I have here, and probably the most important one, the one I feel the most regretful about, is to realize that when you become an influencer, even a micro influencer, if people start knowing who you are, there is a potential that they will treat you differently than they would a regular customer. But I think that it is my responsibility before I work with a brand to thoroughly vet them, to do all the Reddit searching, to look on every indie thread that I can possibly find, and to find real customer reviews. Nothing is going to be all positive. But if something is a pattern, then that's your responsibility to find it, condensing it down. The lesson here is that in the future, before working with a brand, I will search out personal experiences from customers rather than thinking that all customers have the experience that I personally have. My next lesson that I have is to not film when you are angry or emotional. And I think this is something that can be really easily done, because when you're so upset, it can blind your judgment. And when people are asking and they're like, what happened? We want to know what's the truth. And it's like, I have to speak my truth. It's like all these feelings. I feel like being blinded by anger is just so unhelpful to any situation. It's just fighting fire with fire. And in this lesson, I luckily did not post that video. I didn't post the second video that I did. I waited a month and a half to do this because I wanted to just really think it through and not just get sucked into the drama. I do have a rule that I don't post videos if I start crying, because I just feel like when I'm at that vulnerable state, I'm not at my best. So that came into play here, but just really, really think through everything you do before you get on camera. The next lesson that I have here, this is a little bit more of a soft note, but it is just not to underestimate a micro influencer. I mean this in a way of don't underestimate the connection that they have with their audience, because someone who has 10,000 subscribers but has a super close connection with them might sell the same amount of products as someone who has 100,000 subscribers but has barely any connection. Underestimating yourself can turn into being underprepared and then falling behind. It's weird because you can't calculate a connection, you can't put numbers behind it, but if you know it's there, just don't underestimate yourself. Like, just be fully ready before you launch a product. I think that's huge. The last lesson that I have here is one that kind of goes against me and who I am personality-wise. If you know me, I am very like conflict resistant. I hate being in conflicts. It's so bad for me mentally. Like, I'm the person who shakes. I cry when I get upset. I just feel awful. Like, I don't like being in arguments, and even not just arguments. I don't like any tension at all. I don't like causing a wave. I'm very much just like go with the flow, and that can lead me to being a little bit passive aggressive when I get upset about something. So the lesson that I've taken here is that you cannot be shy when it comes to standing up for your reputation and for your name. And I'm just going to give an example. If, for example, emails weren't getting answered, instead of being very blank and to the point and being like, why are emails not getting answered? We need to have a solution to this right now. So instead, I would be like, hey, just checking in. What are the hours that emails are getting answered? Just wanted to know. Obviously, with business, you still want to be respectful. You don't want to come off as rude or stepping over that line. Just be honest. Just be open about if something upsets you, if something is wrong, if there's something you need done better, because being shy about it is never going to help any issues. It's hard being in this position because like I go on YouTube, I want to make friends, I want to talk about makeup, I want to make this a side gig, maybe one day a full-time gig. Who's to say how it ends up going? But I don't have a background in finance or contracts or business. So everything that I do is just like a learning as I go moment. I've definitely made mistakes. I've made bad decisions. I've made good decisions that I didn't even realize were good decisions. And it was just luck because I don't have an education in this area. I know I called myself naive, and I just want to let you know that that's not a cop-out. It's not like, oh, these bad things happened, I'm so naive, like I have no responsibility here. It's not like that. It's just I'm trying to acknowledge that I trust people more than I should. I believe the best in people. I believe people have good intent without them having to prove it to me. I take full responsibility for that ignorance, and it does suck to have to acknowledge that not everybody in the world has a good heart, but it's something that I'm going to keep in mind in the future. Please don't let this video be the beginning of a hate campaign to Amy Hart's Beauty. That is not what I'm doing here. I wanted to acknowledge this because I've gotten a lot of questions, and also, like I said, to share what I've learned because I think it could be helpful for others, but I'm not here to spread hatred or to cause even more drama. I just want to move on from this, and my personal recommendation, which is the same as it's always been, would be to vote with your dollar. So that's everything for today's video. Thank you so much for being here and listening to this. I really hope that it was received well and that you understand where I'm coming from, especially as far as not being able to go more in depth. I will see you in the next one. Bye.